Hello everyone, it's time for another ProGuides video. My name is Renox and I'd like to welcome you back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you 10 things I wish I knew when I started playing CSGO. If you're a newer player, there might be some important information that you aren't aware of. Alternatively, there are some things that you think you might know, but might not be true. I'm gonna do my best to steer you newer players in the right direction, so you don't make some of the same mistakes that I did. Before we get started though, it is of course time for our question of the day. Today's question is, how long have you been playing CSGO? Personally, I've been playing on and off since 2014, and the game has changed a lot since it first started. The CZ was broken, Ninjas in Pajamas were still the best team in the world, and maps like Inferno and Nuke were a lot more CT-sided. Without further ado, let's take a look at some of the things that I wish I knew when I started playing CSGO. If you're a newer player, watch this video twice. You'll be glad you did.
Alright guys, getting right into things, one thing that I see often that I really don't like is a lot of aim tutorials on YouTube right now that talk about how you should be flicking as fast as you can. This will only create bad habits for newer players. When training your aim in a practice map like aimbots, your first priority should always be accuracy. Being able to always hit your target and gradually improve your speed is much more effective than just flicking your mouse around and hoping to get lucky. When you're warming up your aim in aimbots, I recommend that your first 100 kills are slow and accurate shots. Make sure you don't miss a single shot. Just start out very slowly and gradually increase the speed at which you become more comfortable with locking onto your target. As long as you're able to consistently hit your shots, you will eventually be able to increase your speed and improve your aim to a high level. To quote Launders, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. If you're not communicating with your teammates, you will fall behind very quickly. Having information is extremely important in a tactical shooter like Counter-Strike, and even basic callouts can mean the difference between winning and losing a round. You should do your best to relay specific information to your teammates, like how many enemies you hear, where they are, and where they might be going. Just because you hear one guy running through B tunnels on Dust 2 does not mean that they are all going B. Instead say, one in tunnels could be more. Basic information like this can really help your teammates out because they can take that information into account either when playing their own positions or rotating to come support you. If you don't have a microphone or choose not to use it, you put yourself and your teammates at a significant disadvantage. I'm probably going to sound like a broken record because we've talked about this one before in several videos, but this is an important one. Don't try to copy other people's settings in hopes of playing better. Pro players don't use a certain crosshair, resolution, or even sensitivity because it is objectively better. Pros use what's comfortable for them based on their own personal preferences, and you should be doing the same. I see a lot of players copy their favorite pro player's CFG file and expect to start hitting more headshots. The reality is that the vast majority of your settings are based on your own preferences, and after spending some time sorting them out, shouldn't really mess with them too much. That being said, there's nothing wrong with changing your settings if you really want to. Just make sure that it's something that you decide for yourself and not just because a pro player uses it. If you're struggling with improvement, that's perfectly fine. This is a difficult game to master and you're not alone in your struggles. What's important for you to know is that improvement is not linear, meaning that you won't get better at the same rate all the time. Most improvement happens in your first few months playing the game, when you put a lot of time into learning the mechanics. After that, you'll feel like you have plateaued a bit. If you're ever feeling stuck, just keep playing and try to practice different things. If you spend a lot of time deathmatching, try to focus on your crosshair placement or your movement instead. If you're getting really frustrated and losing a lot of games in a row, just take a break and come back the next day. Sometimes all you need is a mental reset in order to clear your mind. Some great ways to do this include taking a shower, going for a walk, or even reading a book. It's better to be focused while you practice for a short amount of time instead of practicing for a long time mindlessly. One thing that I learned in my early days of playing the game is that I would improve a lot more if I played with more experienced players than me. They would do a really great job of giving me advice and pointing me in the right direction by telling me about some of their past experiences. If you can, try to reach out to some players who have played the game at a higher level and see if you're able to learn anything from them. One of the ways that you can do this is by going to our website and getting a session with one of our top level coaches. Talking to a better player will give you a different perspective on how to think about and approach the game, which should help you improve a lot. If you're an aspiring in-game leader, let me start off by saying that your efforts will usually be wasted in a solo queue environment. Calling full and complex strategies requires too much coordination from your random teammates who have never played with each other before. On top of that, it's very likely that your teammates don't know the grenade lineups for most of the strats that you would want to run anyways. Just let your teammates do what they want and don't try to put them on a leash. If you want to call something that you think will work against the other team, keep it really simple and be suggestive about why it might work. A good way to say it might be something like, hey, I think they're stacking towards A. Do you guys want to try going B fast? I think it might work. If you really want to be a good in-game leader and call complex strategies, focus on improving your mechanics first and get good enough to join a real team where you can practice and play scrimmages together. One thing that makes CSGO a unique game is its economy system. One thing that you should do as a new player is make sure that you understand this system and try to use it to your advantage. Learn how to do all the math in your head so you'll be able to calculate how much money you'll have in the next round. Being able to plan ahead allows you to buy more efficiently in the current round and will give you an advantage over your opponents. It's perfectly fine if you have to save your money for a few rounds and you have to go out with a pistol, because it'll be worth it to have rifles on your team instead of buying SMGs several rounds in a row. If you keep forcing up, you might be peer pressuring one of your teammates who's really good at using an op into forcing with you. Also, try to keep in mind what the enemy's economy will be so you can prepare for what they might do. If the opponent has a very low loss bonus, there's a chance that they might try to save and rush you with pistols. These smaller details can play a big factor in whether or not you lose a game, so try to write down all the bonuses you get at first so that you can have an idea of what equipment your team or the enemy team will have. Utility is an extremely important part of the game, and the faster you learn to use it, the better. When used properly, one piece of utility can get you a kill and give your team the advantage. Flashing for your teammate to peek something is an extremely basic tactic, yet doing it effectively can give your team a significant advantage, even at a really high level of play. Using an incendiary to delay the enemy's push gives your teammates times to rotate and come help you, which will make retaking site much easier. Smoking off certain choke points makes taking a bomb site easier. I recommend that you spend some time in an offline server learning simple smokes and flashbang lineups, so you can support your teammates even at a very basic level. Learning to use your grenades effectively will immediately put you in the top 25% of players in your skill level. This is a big one. I get a lot of questions in the comment sections about GameSense and how you guys can learn to get better at it. However, GameSense is not something that I can teach you. GameSense is often referred to as just being a smarter player, but that's not really what it means. As a core concept, GameSense is being able to use your past experiences in order to determine what is going to happen next. For example, when you go out middle on Mirage, there is typically a player in either the window room or connector. You know this because in your past experiences, you've had to deal with a player in these positions. Because you know this, you can plan accordingly by throwing a smoke towards the top of catwalk to avoid being seen by the window room player. This is what GameSense is really about. Some great examples of players with good GameSense are Zipnix from Astralis and Rain from FaZe Clan. These players are really great at winning clutch situations. They're strong in these rounds because they've been put in clutch situations hundreds, likely thousands of times. They're so good at being able to use their past experiences in clutches in order to predict how the enemies will move, and that's why they're such well-respected clutch players. So, the reason I can't teach you better GameSense is because your GameSense is completely dependent on how you play and how your specific opponents play. The best way to acquire GameSense is to go back and watch your demos so you can fully understand why the opponents are making the plays they are and keep that in mind when playing in your own matches. The vast majority of players never bother to go back and watch their own demos. However, there's a lot to learn from going back and watching how you played. When you watch yourself play, it's easier for you to realize your mistakes and why you might not have wanted to make a certain play that you did. Because CSGO is a game that also requires a lot of critical thinking and not just raw skill, going back and picking up on your bad habits and mistakes will put you ahead of the majority of the player base. If you're not sure what mistakes you're making, I highly recommend you get a coaching session over on ProGuides.com. We have a lot of top-level coaches who can pick apart your gameplay and tell you exactly what you should be practicing. However, you shouldn't only be watching your own demos. It's also a good idea to watch demos of professional players in order to get an idea of what grenades they throw, what spots they play, and the decisions they make in certain situations. If you want to watch pro demos, a great place to do so is hltv.org. This website has an archive of almost every professional CSGO match over the last 7 to 8 years, and you can download the demo for most of them. There's a lot to learn from studying players that are way better than you. So if you want to learn how to play a specific spot, then I definitely recommend that you get watching.
With that being said, that's going to be the end of this video. Hopefully this video cleared up some things you either didn't know or weren't sure about in CSGO. If this advice helps you improve and win more matches, please leave a comment down below. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you don't miss any new content from the ProGuides team. If you want to take your game to the next level, then feel free to head on over to ProGuides.com. You'll have the ability to work with our expert coaches to get a personalized experience for improving your own game. If you want to just brush up on the basics, we also have a handful of courses available just for you. Best of luck in your competitive matches, and I wish you all a great rest of your day.